What's going on, everybody? It's your boy Shooky from Shook Earth Media, and today we're ranking seasons of Fear the Walking Dead. Now, as you guys may know, I have been reviewing season 7 episodes as they come out, and you can see my reviews for all of those episodes as they go. So at this point, we're halfway through season 7, so I will put season 7 in the list, but it only applies to the first half of the season because that's all that is out. So we're just gonna go from worst to best and just go from there. I will say, bottom of the list, very, very bottom of the list, season 7 so far. I really only liked the first episode with Strand and introducing him as a new villain. I always felt like he's a character that really they kind of made him into more of a good guy, more of a straightforward, less conniving guy season 4 through 6. And they started to bring that back in season 6, but I don't feel that they really justified his full move to a villain. I don't really understand what the beef is between him and Morgan, and I don't really understand the main conflict, like what his motivations are. I'm a little confused by it, so I don't know if I'm missing something, and there's all these conveniences. I mean, that's the thing with season 6 and 5. There's so many coincidences that it's really stretching and straining my suspension of disbelief. So it's really getting to the point where everybody's conveniently running into everybody else. Everybody knows where everybody is at all times. They all have these radios and they all stay in constant contact. And it's just so... it's just really difficult to take seriously at a certain point because it's not really representative of real life, and I'd like to see more of the survival aspect of the show. I feel like the main show overall, there's some issues with this, but in general, it tends to be able to stay more grounded and keep it to real life. And there's still coincidences, but coincidences happen in real life. But it's just the sheer amount of them. You know, like in that episode with the sub, you know, the guy that when Morgan and Grace come back to the sub, they just so happen to the Strand's people just so happen to be there waiting for them when they get back. Those Strand's people are just at all places at all times. They're like, ooh, Strand told me you'd be here, finding Dwight and all and that. And so it's very aggravating to me, and the whole like nuclear apocalypse thing really, like, everybody has a mask, and it really didn't end up being as compelling as I thought it might be. So it's a disappointing story, and I really don't know what the conflict is, and there's supposed to be a war happening now between Alicia and Strand over a character named Will, who we didn't even know that well. So I don't know. I'm not really that into season 7, honestly. So above season 7, I would put season 5. I didn't really care for season 5 overall. They were spent so long trying to save these kids, and like they brought Dwight in that season, and again, that's just such a big coincidence that, you know, both Morgan and Dwight would go on foot, and Sherry as well. They go on foot from the DC area in Alexandria in Virginia, and they would fucking go all the way across the country and just so happen to end up in the same place. It's really coincidental, and if there weren't so many other coincidences, maybe I could look past this, but it's just so unbelievable, it's hard to really get behind it. And this season, they also brought back Daniel, who's one of my favorite characters, but I feel like Daniel in this season and in later seasons, I feel like he's so underutilized. We'll get into him more later, but he was one of my favorite characters, one of the standout characters, and they really just kind of made him set dressing at a certain point. This show, it's by season 5, the cast becomes so bloated that they can't really service all the characters. I mean, we still have Luciana around. Luciana's not really doing a lot. You know, I'll be honest, there's not much change to her. There isn't much dynamic arc happening. It's not really all that great. And then we have this ridiculous like propaganda war where they're making videotapes and they're leaving them at gas stations and like, we're gonna help everybody. And I'm not really that into that storyline. I'm down with the helping people thing, but I just don't understand why Morgan didn't want to lead the group back to Alexandria at the end of season 4. I felt like that was going to be the trajectory, and they were just going to get, sidetracked on the way there. I thought that was how the story was going to go, but instead we just have this hokey storyline of like, we're going to help everybody at all times, and then how they ended it, where the good guys just give up at the end, it was so frustrating to me. And that episode with the wedding and stuff, and it's just like, who wants to see a show where the main characters just give up, and just willingly are like, okay, we're gonna basically subject ourselves to tyranny on purpose, So it was a frustrating season. There's a couple episodes I did like here and there, like I liked the mall episode, but again, and the nuclear zombie element was really cool, but again, they just completely get rid of the whole, oh, we have to worry about getting their blood on us because it'll infect us with radiation. They just get rid of that later in the series just because it's inconvenient for them. So they write for convenience now, and that's why season 5 is there. So above season 5, I would put season 6. The first half of it was very strong, and I really liked it. I mean, we had the episode that was like an investigation with John Dory, and he's trying to solve a crime. That episode was amazing. There was some really great individual episodes here and there, like we had Al and them learning about what the CRM is doing and getting little clues into that. And I really enjoyed that season up until John Dory's death in episode 8. I really didn't care for that episode very much. They really transitioned his character from a happy-go-lucky guy who's an optimist to somebody who's depressed and suicidal for a reason I don't really understand. So it was a very abrupt change to his character. It felt very out of character for him, and I really didn't care for the fact that he was killed off in that way. I get that the actor asked to leave the show, but losing that character was just such a huge blow to the series. And the back half of that season, I felt like was just undercooked. We have the thing with the coincidences and stuff, and I love the death cult idea and the idea of Teddy and stuff, but just so much sloppy execution of those episodes. And for some reason, John Dory's abilities magically transfer over to June for some reason, and his father shows up as a replacement for him and all that, and it really just didn't work for me. And there's just so much sloppy execution. I wish that they really spent more time with the death cult idea instead of just rushing through it. So that's why season 6 I have a lot of issues with. But I really like the first 6 episodes, especially. And now, above that, I honestly, I like all these seasons, but I would put season 1 above that. Season 1, it was a disappointment to me because they marketed it as this is about the outbreak, and this is the season where we're going to get into this is the series where we're going to get into the mechanics of the outbreak and how it happened and what it felt like to live through that. And essentially all we got was a riot that happened outside the barbershop that they're in. And it felt like wasted potential. There's nothing wrong with the cast and characters. I think they did a good job setting all that up. But they rushed past the outbreak so quickly, and it was just one riot that happened outside. I get it. They didn't have the budget to really do the premise, but I don't know why they marketed the show that way. It felt like a waste of their premise. So it was a disappointment, and then they had a time jump and everything. And the time jump, all that storyline is fine, and having the military occupation, all that. It's all fine. I just would have liked to see that happen in season 2 or something. So it felt like a waste of a great premise, to really show the outbreak. And I just feel like we're never really going to get that show where they deal with the outbreak in the way it should have been done. We're never going to get it at this point because they tried it with Fear and they didn't end up really doing it. So I feel like we're just never going to get that show at this point. So that's why the pilot's decent. And the finale of that season, I remember really enjoying it, and the introduction of Strand and stuff. I liked all that. So above season 1, I would put season 4. I actually enjoyed most of season 4. I thought that the first half of it was very strong. It started off amazing. I wasn't really wild about Morgan getting spun off into the show, but I can understand why they made that decision from a business standpoint, that they have this very popular character, Morgan, and the cast on the main show is kind of a little bloated, and he's been a very popular character. His arc has been interesting. Some of my favorite Walking Dead episodes are to do with Morgan, and spinning him off into this show, it really, I guess it was really either that or have the show be canceled. And ultimately, I would have preferred if it didn't happen, but how they did it ended up being okay. I just feel like it was a little rushed. Justifying him running across the country and running away, it was a little rushed to me. So it was a bit abrupt, but once he got there, we introduced the character John Dory, who is one of my favorite Walking Dead characters. So I really like his introduction. Most of the first half of the season I thought was very strong, and I enjoyed seeing all the characters and having a time jump. And this is the season where we had Nick getting killed off, and I know he asked to leave, but it was just one of the most interesting characters that they had, and I felt like he was just completely wasted. And they still have the character who killed him in cold blood just sticking around in the show, and I really hate that character, Charlie. It's not the actor's fault or anything. I just don't have any attachment to her at all, and she's still hanging around doing nothing. I actually enjoyed the mystery of like what happened with Madison, and the finale I thought was excellent. I wasn't really necessarily wild about losing Madison because she was the most interesting character on the show, bar none, to me. I'm not really wild about her dying, but her death episode was very good, well done, I thought. And it was a moving episode, actually. I thought it was pretty good. Again, I was just assuming that she was going to show up in a couple episodes again. And she escaped somehow. And I would have been fine with that. A little fake out, but that's not what ended up happening. The play with time and how we saw the flashbacks and the present day and all of that, and the thing with the stadium, they did kind of fundamentally change Madison's character at this point. She was a little bit more ruthless in previous seasons, and then they kind of made her... I like how they injected a lot of positivity into Season 4 with this character of John Dory, and just, like, it's a little less gloomy, there's a bit more humor, and but I don't necessarily like how they kind of went back on some of the ruthlessness of Madison. She was Mama Bear. She would do literally anything, no matter how ruthless, in order to protect her children. So that was what made her so interesting, and they kind of went back on that and just made her Mrs. Helpy, help everyone all times, always. And I don't know, it seemed a little out of character, but overall I liked that season. And even the back half of the season, I liked it when the characters were separated. You know, we had the episode in the house with Charlie and Alicia. I liked that episode, and the episodes like dealing with the love story between John Dory and June. I enjoyed all that. And, you know, there's a lot of great episodes in the season. The last few episodes, they have this villain who's one of the worst villains in Walking Dead history. I like what they were going for, but they really didn't stick the landing. And it was really a shame. And at the end, they have this whole thing where, they drink beer and now they're no longer sick so they got poisoned or something. And beer was the cure. I don't know. So, I don't know. The end of that season was very silly to me. But I really liked how it started. So, yeah, I'll just say that. And then I'll go back and say Season 5 had some fun elements, too, with John Dory and some of the western town that they went to. I liked that bit. But, yeah, I just wanted to throw that in there. So, above Season 4, I would put Season 2. Season 2 was when the show really started to get into its own. It really explored some of the characters more deeply. Now, again, the first half of the season, it's on this boat, and it's like Strand's boat, and, you know, and there's some interesting interplay between the characters there. Now, they had this whole marketing gimmick where it was like, we have these mini episodes of the zombies on a plane, and then those characters show up in season 2. They really criminally underused those characters, and it ended up not even mattering. They were gone within a couple episodes, I think. So yeah, I found the first half of the season to be a little underbaked, but then when they end up in Mexico, it really improves, and I really like the finale that they had there, and I really like Daniel and a lot of the stuff going on in season 2, and we had an interesting different group that was like run by a doctor and that Nick was staying at, and there's a lot of great stuff in season 2 that I really enjoyed. So season 2 I would say is the second best, and process of elimination, season 3 is my favorite. This has one of my favorite Fear the Walking Dead episodes that deals with just Daniel. It's like a little movie with just Daniel, and it's about how he survived and about how he's had to kill so many people. And that's why I think it's so criminal that he's just a guy that has dementia now. And even before that, he was underused. He was just kind of a happy-go-lucky guy at this point. He's not the guy who had to live through all these terrible events in his home country, pre-apocalypse. You know, he was equipped to deal with some terrible situation. He had the interrogation in season 1 that he did, and all these other things. So season 3, I think, had some of the best character moments. There's some frustrating things for me. Like, there's this one, like, essentially, just crazy guy who experiments on. He was introduced experimenting on people by killing them and seeing how long it would take for them to turn, and then they just keep him around even though they had plenty of opportunities to kill him. And Nick and him had this weird relationship, and in retrospect, it's very interesting. But when I was watching it the first time, I was like, dude, just fucking kill the guy already. He's insane. So, in general, I really like season 3, and there's a lot of interesting conflicts. I mean, we had the whole group that was like preppers, which it makes sense to show in an apocalypse scenario. So, I really like season 3. I think it's the pinnacle of Fear the Walking Dead, and this video has already probably gone on too long. So we won't go into much more detail, but that was my favorite season, was season 3, and that's my list, guys. Let me know your rankings in the comment section down below. Sub for more Walking Dead videos. We're between seasons right now, so we're going to be not doing as many, but we talk about horror stuff, we talk about Resident Evil, we talk about all kinds of crazy stuff, and I hope I can keep you guys entertained on this channel, and I hope to see you on the next video. But thanks for watching, everybody, and you guys have a good one, and peace out. We'll see you later.